Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're so happy to have you here at USA Global TV. And hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is The Art of Mental Health Wealth. Wow, what a topic. Joining me, traveling, going against all odds to be here today. She's going to share a little bit more about that, is Jenetta Barry and the Epiphany Process. Let's welcome her. Hi, Jenetta.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Yes, I'm here.
I just appreciate you and your loyalty and dedication. So tell us a little bit about where you are and what you've been going through.
I'm in East Africa in Kenya, which is where I'm from. So I'm delighted to be at home. But I arrived on Saturday sans my luggage, and that's my life. I've got all my outfits. I'm in transit for 2 months, and no luggage, and it still hasn't arrived 5 days later. And in that was my LED lights and my green screen for presenting today. And then I'm staying with some very special friends who love my work. But the electricity's gone, and we've got limited generator time. So we've put it on specially for tonight. And to get the right lighting so you can see me at all, I am sitting on the floor.
Oh, Jenetta. Bless you. You are amazing. Well, thank you again. Let's get right to it. We have a fabulous guest who is not a stranger to our platform, which is wonderful to have her back. Before we bring her out, I'm going to spotlight you. Tell us a little bit about the Epiphany Process, your background, and what this show means to you.
Wow, the Epiphany Process was born 14, 15 years ago after I lost my daughter, 16-year-old daughter, Jenny, to suicide. And I walked a path that pushed me to finally do research and study to make sure I got accurately through this and lived a life, even though the loss was there for the rest of my life. And I got myself through, and it's a process I'm still going till I breathe the last breath. But it's incredibly powerful. I've helped people all over the world, from terrorist attack victims to people who are self-harming, not getting out of bed, writing suicide notes, eating disorders, you name it. And PTSD is another one, of course. I've been there. So that's the Epiphany Process. And from the Epiphany Process has birthed 2 charities, using theatre and the arts to soften the conversation about depression and suicide and deepen the impact. It's amazing. So the one is Insight theatrical production using dance and music and voiceover and all sorts of things to get people to get a really open-hearted understanding about depression, suicide, and solutions, that there are always solutions. And then World Jenny's Day is the other one, which will be integrating a lot with our very precious guests today, who I'm so pleased to have with us. And that's World Jenny's Day, which is an international day held annually on World Mental Health Day after my daughter Jenny, who happened to die on that day. And again, each year we use theatre and the arts in the most powerful way to show what it really is all about and how to handle it really skillfully so that you live an inspired life once again. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And it's always so touching and just heartwarming that you were able to be courageous and move forward and take your own experience and take it out there to the world and help others. So thank you very much, Jenetta.
I just want to thank you and USA Global TV, because this has the capacity to make an impact to so many people all around the world. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here on this platform. A huge thank you and shout out to.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And also we have to shout out to Ian Pelham Turner and Helena Shard for the continuous connections, and also with our guest, Susie Nathanson, who is backstage. So Susie's an incredible London-based artist. The work that she does, even some of the pieces we're going to show today with people I know, it's just a whole new look at art. And we're going to talk today about a number of things, but also how does creating art, putting art out into the world, align or connect with mental health wellness? All right.
Right.
Jenetta, go ahead.
Well, yeah. So basically what we were saying is that when art is created from the heart, when you're using, because we're all created, we're part of creation. The creator created us, and we are part of that creativity. And when we step into our unique creativity, then we're all in one, in alignment with all that creation. And when that happens, amazing conversations start happening. Having said that, the epiphany process is very scientific. And I love that we can meld the epiphany process and the way that people process with that process and the arts in this way is profound. And that's what we're going to talk about with Susie today, what she's done with art and a bit of a background and what she's done with art and where it marries in with what we're doing with World Jenny's Day. So over to you, and welcome to Susie. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Welcome, Susie. Nice to see you.
Lovely to be here, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be talking to you both today, and fascinating hearing more about just what Jenetta's doing, and I look forward to hearing more about that. So fantastic to be here.
Yeah, and Susie, I was trying to think. Oh, sorry. I just going to say I was trying to think when it was that you were here last. I think it was early on.
It was, oh gosh, it's at some point mid last year, maybe summertime way. I remember it being warm and we had a Scottish theme going on as well. One of the other guests was telling us about salmon fishing.
Simon.
Yes, that's it.
Simon
Yeah.
McDonald. Brilliant. So Susie, I'd just like to ask the first question. So if you could share a little bit with our audience about your background as an artist, how you got started on this journey, and then we could take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I've been practicing for over 20 years now, which seems probably longer if you include sort of getting going from early childhood. But in a way, it was somewhat inevitable that I went down this path. I had a mother who was an artist and a father who was an art consultant. So I was really surrounded by art when I grew up, when I was growing up. And I think, as I'm sure we will discuss more, this idea that art, like so many other things, is a language. And I struggled in particular with writing and reading as a child. And because I was surrounded by art and it was really another language to me, I very naturally kind of went down that path, using it to express myself in a way that I couldn't in any other medium at that time. And then because it's sort of that sort of relationship, if you like, with art started like that, it really became an outlet for my processing of things, my experiences. It was a way I could understand the things I was going through. And gradually, as the skills and aptitude for creating art got better, I was able to develop a vocabulary of my own, to convey these things. And now I specialize in storytelling paintings and portraits of people, animals, and treasured objects, which are particularly vintage toys, which I have a real fondness for. And I think it's that idea of trying to get to the root of any story and find what the meaning behind it is, and using art as a way to do that. So that's just a little bit about me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that.
So, Susie, I just think it's wonderful when things are handed over to the next generation and you take those reins. And I know you've taken it one step further with digital art. And I was going, yes, I'm so looking forward to chatting to you about that some more. So give us an idea of what got you to move through and use digital art as well, and what is it about the art that inspires you? What parts?
So it was a very interesting journey, because I'm traditionally trained in mediums like oil on canvas painting and acrylic and pastels and so on. So these are the tools that I've been using for the majority of my life. But because of COVID, that extraordinary thing that we've took us down so many different paths, I had constricted access to my studio, and space and equipment was an issue. So I started to dabble with digital painting, not knowing a huge amount about it at the time, but found increasingly I went with a very open-minded approach. I thought, right, I know what I do in oil painting. Can I do this in digital painting? Do those skills transfer? And I'm really happy to say that they have. And it's, as a result, opened up an extraordinary flexibility. And I feel very lucky that I'm coming to it now, because whilst digital painting in its sort of infancy has been around since the 1980s, it's only really in the last few years that there is the software and technology available for commercially and widely available for artists like myself to use, which really capture traditional, the sort of textures and feeling of traditional mediums like oil painting. So the software that I am using now literally was launched, I believe, in 2020. So the variant, I mean, it's been around since 2015, but the variant that I'm particularly using, 2020. So given that, the timing was just beautifully aligned. And I feel, because I've been working with it now for coming on to 2 years, it's just, I've assimilated sort of the process, if you like, and merged how I approach the oil painting with how I now approach the digital painting. And as a result, I think many artists will find or describe the challenge that they have with space, setting up, finding the time to really carve out the mental kind of focus required to really push a painting to completion. Sometimes they have a dedicated space and it's fine. Other times they're juggling it with life and other things. And I always found to be able to do a painting, I really needed the full day in front of that painting to generate that momentum, that creative focus, in order to really progress it. It's not to say that one doesn't need that now, but there isn't the same setup time, clear up time involved. And somehow I can lock into that focus much faster than I ever have been able to do before. So you can juggle it more efficiently and sort of effectively with the rest of the things that life throws at you. So that's been a huge kind of revelation in one way. And then also being able to film the process more effectively. I mean, of course, one can do time lapses with a camera when you're doing a painting, and that's often something that people do. But when you're filming the screen, you can really kind of film the detail of that process in a way that I've never been able to before. And then when I'm doing a commission, to be able to share that with my clients, they go on that journey with me. And I think that is a really nice sort of aspect to what I can offer with a digital painting. So that sort of touches on, and then of course there is the economic side of it, in that you haven't got physical paints to buy. You can also when you finished a painting, produce it in a number of ways. So you can print it as a fine art print, and with the amazing kind of reach of print on demand companies, say you have someone in America or Australia and they order something, you can get a printing company in those countries to print and send it to them. And the costs are so much less, they're so much more reduced because of that. So it's a win-win in so many ways. Gives you a little bit of a background on it.
Would you say now that you've come, I mean, it's a recent turnaround, but if you were to put the medium you've been using before and now digital art, where's your heart sit and lie now? Where do you feel you enjoy the most or love the most?
It's such a good question, because I think it really taps into the heart of a conversation I've had with myself for a long time. It's like, is there something fraudulent, for example, about somehow going down the digital art route? Does creating art through digital painting, is it any less valid or than sort of authentic oil painting? And it is something that I wrestle with slightly, but then at the heart of it, it's creating something from nothing, and I start from scratch. It's not as if I'm tracing or copying something there. I mean, I'm looking at something on a screen next to my digital canvas, and it's creating it from nothing, and therefore it takes you on that same journey. And I think it's true to form if it really takes you to that sort of almost meditative place where you are really in the present moment, observing in high definition, if you like. And I do tend to go into the detail with my work, because it's something that it's about bringing the subject to life in the best way I possibly can. And I just get absolutely transported, whether it's the fur of an animal or trying to get to the expression in the heart of something with a face or a sort of hand gesture. And I think at the end of it, it's the painting that's created. And if you can really do justice to the subject and create a painting that has meaning, it doesn't matter what the medium is. And I think if you look back in history, you look back at the way printing presses and sort of etching and that whole medium was used back in the 16th century. And it was a way for artists to broaden their reach, where they couldn't necessarily do that with a one-off painting. Obviously, there is something different about standing in front of a painting with oil and texture. I mean, it has a different quality when you're standing in front of it. But in terms of an image and in terms of what the message of that image can do, there is no difference. I now feel that anyway. So I feel that the journey I go on when I'm making a digital painting is as valid and special as that I go on with an oil painting. Hopefully that makes some kind of sense.
Absolutely. Which would you say is the way you're enjoying the most right now?
I think digital painting, in that it allows me to produce many more things, whereas an oil painting would, not in a bad way, but it would tie me up for a longer proportion of time, so it wouldn't allow me to explore multiple subjects and multiple paintings so easily. Where my interests are, I think they're all connected, but they're broad. I love painting animals, I love painting people, I love painting dancers, and a variety of other things as well. So I don't want to be straitjacketed into any one thing for too long. I'd like to kind of explore the connection and the dialogue between all these things. So it really allows me to do that.
Susie, we have some videos and some pictures that I'd like to put up. What about starting off with the digital painting setup? How do you feel about that?
Let's do that. It just gives you a visual of how things work. Exactly.
Actually, I love this. Okay, let's take a look.
Today is a quick behind the scenes of my digital painting setup. Here I am showing you my pressure sensitive Wacom stylus and tablet, which is what I use to draw with freehand onto my computer screen. This is real-time speed to give you an idea of my pace. On average, artworks can take between 15 to 20 hours to complete, but for convenience sake, I'm speeding up the rest of this. The software I use for digital painting is called Affinity Designer, which lets me select from a variety of digital brushes and colours, although I tend to mostly use oil brushes. As you can see here, I have my reference image up next to my digital canvas, and I'm constantly looking over at it whilst I work, which sped up looks a bit weird, I grant you. I build the image up from scratch in broad areas of colour, in much the same way I do when working in oil on canvas. I keep my approach loose at the start and gradually work up the detail and depth of tone. Hope you've enjoyed this little hello, and any questions, do let me know.
My word.
So much work goes into that.
But it's what's lovely is it's just a satisfying quality that you can get at the end of it. So that's what I mean, and sort of being really happy to discover that I could achieve that with digital painting in a way that I that compares to how I would try with oil painting to do. So yeah, it was it's been a bit of a game changer for me, for sure.
Yeah, huge respect. I wish I could do the same. I think it's amazing, and I know we discussed, the three of us, the basic theme today of what we would talk about around your art. Would you like to expand further on that topic?
So yeah, we were talking about this idea between the connection between art and mental health, and I think there are two things that I would like to sort of introduce to that discussion. One is from a personal perspective with the artwork that I do, which is very much sort of the root of it is very much from my own personal. Sorry, my screen just went for a little walk there. Apologies. A personal sort of vantage point where I have taken subjects that really draw on my own personal experience, but also looking at the commissions I've done recently and the commission service I have, which is very rooted in finding out the meaning behind the subject for my clients and being able to transcribe that visually into a painting that is very special to them. So there are two aspects to sort of to look into further, and there are a couple of artworks that I thought would be a good place to start, if that's okay with you both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we can bring up the Troubadour, which was one of my oil paintings, which was inspired by a street performer that I encountered at the Edinburgh Festival, which is where I was based up in Edinburgh for my studies and doing my MA in fine art. And the Edinburgh Festival was just a constant presence every summer, which was a wonderful inspiration. But I often looked at street performers for they became, if you like, allegorical figures that I would use in my paintings to tell my own stories. And this particular one just tapped into various reference points, personal reference points for me. He really was a sort of a symbol of creative freedom, and it made me think of a medieval minstrel talking and singing about the wonders of love. And I wanted to weave that into a painting, and it was particularly at a time where I'd experienced some very difficult things in relationships, which I was processing at the time. And I was also at that junction of opening my heart up again to something new, and wanted to talk about the sort of the optimism and, if you like, the dangers at the same time of the leap of faith that we take when we fall in love. So this painting really came out of that. So you've got obviously the centre figure of the troubadour, as I've called him. And in fact, when I encountered him on the Royal Mile, he had his friend next to him who was dressed as a wolf on stilts. So of course you had the fantastic fable of, well, first of all, the sheep and the wolf, that traditional kind of paradigm, if you like, and then the sheep, or the wolf in sheep's clothing. So you have these established reference points that sort of play with your imagination, but then I also wanted to take that into my own story, and so you have the two birds who who are together, and then another bird from the past who is flying away, and then the wolf down at the corner, sort of in the shadows, if you like, and just talking about those possible dangers that one could face, but that all these things sort of play off with each other in multiple ways. So there are different interpretations, and for me, these paintings were a way of kind of processing these thoughts, making sense of them, and, if you like, kind of creating some kind of visual order out of the disorder of one's thoughts and one's emotions. So that was that particular painting. And then there was another painting, which is a still life of a toy acrobat, perched on a bonfire, if you like, of matches. And I, as I said before, really love vintage toys as a theme and a subject. I was brought up somewhat, again, surrounded by them. My father was a passionate collector, and I subsequently ended up going to various toy fairs with him, and we would select various toys that really kind of captured our imaginations. And this particular toy, although it looks as if there are 4 legs on that chair, there are only 3 legs on that chair. So there is this kind of funny interplay of sort of the physical balance, if you like, along with the metaphorical balance that I was trying to sort of discuss with this particular painting. And in particular as well, the theme of inner energy and its capacity to both create and destroy. And at the time of painting this, I was again grappling with a few personal challenges, and also there were people in my life at the time who were going through some challenges of their own. And it was sort of my way again of making sense of these strange kind of contrasts and contradictions that we all kind of present at different times of our lives. So on the one hand, you have this sort of very physical possibility of this bonfire of matches going up in flames and the inherent danger of that. But you also have the metaphorical kind of sense of this inner energy that will ignite a flame, and whether that flame, as I say, is used for good or for ill, it's an open question. And I quite like introducing these themes which have sort of multiple outcomes, multiple readings, if you like. And again, how painting allows you to weave all these kind of thoughts together in a coherent composition, hopefully creating something that is both beautiful and perplexing, perhaps, or certainly gets you asking questions, creating a dialogue with the person looking at it, and they then bring their own points of reference to it. So for me, that was a really interesting kind of way of, again, just simplifying my thoughts into something which could be something to look at and visually meditate on. And as I say, I started with one idea for that painting. Lots and lots of thoughts emerged whilst I was painting it. As with anything which takes time, you're constantly making sense of it as you're progressing, and then finishing it and then looking back at it again. It sort of makes sense in even more ways, and you start to recall, yeah, I was also thinking about that, and then that relates to this. So it brings it all together in one place, if you like. So those are personal examples. I might just pause there. Is there anything you wanted to sort of say in relation to that? Because otherwise I'm just talking too much.
Well, I'm loving you talking too much. It's lovely. Yeah, my question, well, no, not really a question. What I related to the most was in those two was the second one, in the balance. And the inner energy balance and the outer balance, and the fact that it's also fragile and it's not guaranteed. It's always on that edge. And of course, that's very much what the epiphany process represents, is the balance of the two opposites. As you bring it into a place where it's ticking over, but it's not guaranteed there. And it's not the certainty, and when you get to that balance, it's enlightening. So that I'd love to chat to you some more about that.
Absolutely.
In another time.
Yeah. No.
I
Yeah, go on.
actually, I really resonated with the troubadour because I, the two birds sitting together, the lovebirds, right, or maybe they're friends, whatever they are, and you see the other bird flying away, which we have to let go of something to start something else. And then in the corner, that the wolf, that you have to be mindful of what could happen, but yet music playing, you can enjoy the present. So that's kind of
Yeah.
what really resonated with me.
Oh, it's
I like that.
superb to
And
hear
can you
that.
see the balance there
Yeah.
that automatically happened? You liking that? I mean, I did. I thought that was amazing, but really the other one resonated. It's wonderful when that happens. I watch it happening where the balance goes on.
And
So
as
Yeah.
you say, like it's so important to acknowledge both sides of that story, because the out of the shadow comes the light. You can't have one without the other, and you need to be able to embrace both experiences to find the understanding, and to also to resonate with other people's stories who have gone through different things. It's very hard to understand that if you haven't tapped into it yourself, and it's all part of a better communication in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
really enjoyed the acrobat as well, because the way that I perceive it, here you have the matches that are not lit yet, right? But they could at any moment. And then the acrobat is upside down on top of this unstable surface. And any motion one way or another could maybe trigger a match somehow. And that's how life is. It's a constant balance. And yet to be able to hold that position, that pose as an acrobat, that's a true gift. And I feel like that's how we are in life. We're balancing every moment, and I think you captured it so well.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, no, I'm glad all these things tapped into those thoughts for you, because that's the whole point. It's just to connect in those ways. Absolutely.
I'd love to spotlight you again and have you go through some of the other beautiful works that we have.
Definitely. So the other things, I suppose, now we're talking about how that process works when I'm working with clients. I can bring up a couple of portraits, one of Huey, the baby, and then possibly, if you've got time, look at a couple of the others. So this was a very special portrait that was done for Huey's parents, and it was, with all my commissions, it starts off, the story is so important. So it starts off with a discussion with my clients where I ask them a series of questions. Some of them are a little bit offbeat and quite wacky. Like one of them was, if Huey could have a superpower, what would it be? And his parents said flying, because he was at that stage where he wanted to be more mobile and he was very curious about life. And so that was why we ended up putting him in the bouncer, because it gave him a little bit more autonomy. But yeah, the questions I ask are very much about helping my clients look at the subject from different perspectives, and perhaps ones that they hadn't fully considered, and trying to find visual reference points off of those questions that I can weave into the painting to make it particularly special to them. So with this one, we had the stars, which were a double reference, first to the song that they sing him every night, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and also this particular artwork that was very special to them that hung in their house. And Huey in particular was very interested in this artwork, and the stars feature within that painting of theirs. And then the rose that he holds is a reference point to the emblem for the hospital that he was born in. And then Freddie the Firefly, which is proudly kind of latched on to his bouncer, is his favourite toy and his constant companion. So I quite like wanting to incorporate that element of it. And then he's wearing a very special cardigan, which was a sort of part of an ancestral loop, which was handed down from generation to generation, and his father wore that as a baby as well. So he's wearing that along with these little shoes that his grandmother knitted for him. And it was a way to bring all these things together, in that the background sort of became him launching up into space as sort of Huey the Explorer with his sidekick the Firefly, Freddy the Firefly, and it just transported into a whole new world. And for them, it captured a lot of what was very special, and it was a real, it was a wonderful journey that I went on in creating it. So that's one example of how certain reference points get woven in. And then for some of the animals that I've done, there's one of Maggie and another of Kovu. So this one is Maggie, and it's, again, with animals, it's a slightly different thing, because it's obviously the owner's interpretation of the character of the animal, and certainly how they resonate with them. For Maggie, there were just some wonderful anecdotal stories that were told in our conversation when I was asking questions about her. One of them was, and you can see in her left or her right paw, our left side of looking at it, the left paw, there is a skeletal fish that you can just make out, and that was in reference to a story of her finding this fish on a beach in Ramsgate one particular walk, and they reburied it, but the next day she managed to find the exact same spot and dig it up again, and then the whole reference point to Survivor, and the life ring that you can see at the foreground, is the fact that she survived two very nasty cases of IBD, I think it is, and she was near to death on a couple of occasions, but got through it, and also loved swimming. So the whole idea of the life ring was in reference to that, and then these sort of the cat, the squirrel, and the fox are things that she gets very excited about and she likes to chase, and then hot pink was the color that they very much associated with her. So again, it was a way of bringing all these stories and reference points into one image, into one painting, which they can have to remember and reflect on, and hopefully that brings a smile every time they look at it. And then this is a work in progress, so it's something that I am almost finished and I'll be sharing soon. But this is Kovu, who again was just in a more simplistic way. How could I make a reference to some of the things that really tell the character of this dog? And he absolutely loves ball games, so around his collar, I've added certain features that weren't there. The tennis ball is one, and then another one is a paddle board in the shape and the color of the paddle boards that he often goes on with his family, who are a very active family. They like to kind of do a lot of paddle boarding and swimming and exploring. So in a very small way, just incorporating those symbols in, almost kind of like a charm bracelet. If you think about how we collect symbols of experiences that only mean something to us, it's sort of, I look at painting in a similar way. You bring all these points into one thing, and you really make it as beautiful and interesting, visually interesting as possible. And then the beaded, I don't know how you'd call it. It's not a collar, but actually the beaded element was from his collar, which was a gift from the owner's father, who lives in Kenya. And because you can't see it because of his extraordinary mane of hair, I've incorporated it into this band across his front instead. So again, just playing with elements of what I had and then incorporating it in a way that works within the composition. So it just gives you a few examples of the way in which these things come together.
Wow. I have to say, aside from the level of professionalism and the detail in each of these portraits, you know your clients so well. I mean, that really says something. You take all this time to get to know them, and then you're able to put these specific, unique elements in the photographs. I think in the portraits, I'm sorry, I think they are amazing.
I think that's it. It's, for me, each commission is a collaboration where I have a certain set of skills to portray things, but then they have the story, they have the inspiration. So I always find it fascinating how I never quite know what the outcome is going to be every time I begin one of those conversations. And so it's as much a discovery and journey for me as it is for them. And I want the process to be an experience for them. It's not just, here's a picture of my dog, go paint it. It is, let's get to the bottom of why this dog is so special to you, or why this subject is so special to you, and let's really incorporate those elements and make something unique out of it. So yeah, then it's a really rewarding thing for both of us in that respect.
Yeah, your work is brilliant. And then a question I have for you, the show title is The Art of Mental Health Wealth. And you were very transparent when you were talking about the troubadour and the acrobat, that you were going through some things in your life and some other people were. How does doing this art help you with your mental health wellness?
It's made me very present, and very aware, more and this is a constant work in progress, as it is with all of us. But there's a lot of thinking that goes on when you're painting, whether it's of conscious or not. And more and more now, when you're alone with your thoughts, creating something, you become aware of these thoughts, this sort of thought patter of thoughts that go through your brain. And there are so many sort of aspects of oneself that one becomes aware of in that process. And I think that kind of opens up one's curiosity when talking with others, to try and understand sort of what they're going through, how they kind of perceive their challenges and journey, if you like. But yeah, it's something, the process itself of painting, you do tap into something quite meditative. And it's funny because I've started looking into meditation myself. It's something that I've always kind of been curious about, but I've been reading more about it. And I love yoga, and I love kind of being present in the moment in my body as well. And I think all these things link up for me in some way. But it's something that I'm still figuring out, as you can probably tell, because I'm starting to ramble a bit. But yeah, I think it gets you asking yourself a lot of questions. It gets you curious about the world, because you're connecting disparate things in infinite ways constantly. And I think that just sort of, it makes one realize just how powerful the mind is, and how the imagination works, how we construct our own narratives for the better or for the worse, and what we can do to sort of make sure that we are in a good place rather than a bad place with ourselves. And I think as well, being self-employed and having probably quite a different work routine to a lot of people who are in a sort of 9-to-5 job, that's another aspect of the journey which forces you to confront a lot of things, a lot of challenges, and see how you can overcome them. And for me, just I think one of the things that's become like my cornerstone, if you like, is to always be open to learning, never root oneself in a fixed place, because you can't grow in that position. You have to always embrace change. Not that you constantly have to change, but be open to it, and be open to going down different pathways. And so, yeah, it's got me thinking a lot about all these different aspects.
Yeah, for me, it's very clear that your intuitive sensitivity shines through. And with those last three pieces with Huey and Maggie and Kovu, is that it transforms people when they see it, because it's not just a portrait, it's got so much energy and meaning in it. And that's part of the mental health balancing and wellness that people take for granted. But you see a picture like that, if they were my friends and I walked into that house, and I would go, wow, what's that about? And there's a whole story going there, hearts opening out to each other. Oh, really? You like flying? You do? It's the most wonderful medium to be able to create that understanding and inherent love that's in all of us. So kudos to you.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Susie, I have a question for you. So, art is timeless, right? It's something that we can appreciate as long as we have the piece. When you created those pieces, the troubadour and the acrobat, and you were feeling whatever you were feeling about how your life was then, when you look at these pieces now, how has that changed?
I feel that those things were, if you like, it was a release for those particular emotions. And I can look at it now and I see where that painting has come from, but I'm no longer negatively affected, if you like, by the emotions that maybe inspired the beginning of them. As you say, I think whether you call it negative or positive, that I was going through some challenging moments, and those don't haunt me at all. They are transfigured into something else and given wings, and they go, and they have a life, independent of me now. So and funnily enough, it's another painting, which we haven't got here, but I think one of the major tests or experiences of painting and challenge in my life was when I lost my father in 2018. And it was at a moment where I was in the process of painting a picture that was inspired by what we were going through. He was not well. He was suffering from cancer for 2 years before he passed. And that journey was something that I felt I needed to process in a painting. And the painting itself was unfinished at the point of his death. And then I had a deadline which I was working to finish that painting. And amongst the complete emotional mess that was that moment in time, I managed to just filter all my thoughts into that painting. And it was the most cathartic, powerful painting experience I think I've ever gone through to date. And it really, I felt him with me every step of the way. And it wasn't a portrait of him, but it was another street performer that represented him. It was a sort of stand-in, if you like, but it incorporated a lot of visual elements that were sort of grappling with my feelings of the time. And one of the most powerful kind of sort of aspects to that equation was the painting went off to an exhibition at the end of that summer and sold to a complete stranger. And it was a bizarre kind of experience where you feel you really pour your heart out into something without explaining it, without kind of going into the detail of it. And somehow someone resonates with it and it connects. And it just makes me realize, like with language, with song, with dance, with painting, it is a bridge that can communicate very strongly with people. And there's something about perhaps it not being with words as well, where you can explore a truth that is perhaps not as obvious or transparent to other people looking at it, but resonates for other reasons. And yet you're able to say exactly how you feel in the way that makes complete sense to you, but it exists independently of yourself as well. So it's a very somewhat mysterious process that I can't entirely kind of put words to, because the visual medium is my medium, but it was an experience, that it really was.
What a fabulous story that you put your heart and soul into something that was so important to you and meaningful, and a complete stranger bought it, could feel that, and maybe not exactly what you were feeling, but it meant something to that person.
Yeah.
That's
And
brilliant.
also to release, to get to that point where you've created something so close to your soul, and then have to say bye.
Absolutely.
That release.
Absolutely. And let it go. Yeah, absolutely.
Susie, you mentioned, in terms of creative outlets, you mentioned dancing. And we have a beautiful painting here from a mutual friend. I'd love to bring this up. Tell us a little bit more about this.
So so this is Ben, who has been on the program, I think, with you before.
Yes.
The Doctor Who of business, as he is otherwise known. But he is a fantastic dancer, and I met him through dancing. And this is he's dancing with his partner Anna in a choreography which I myself learnt and performed we were part of a amateur performance team, which was beautifully kind of managed by an extraordinary company called Incognito Dance, who are based in Southwest London. And they do these 12-week performance courses. And this was the culmination of that. And he was performing in Edinburgh at a salsa congress. And this was the denouement of the routine, where we do what is called the crucifix. And it is, as you see. But what I really wanted to do with this painting is take obviously a theme that was very familiar to me, and a dance, I mean, the physical dance itself, which I had stepped and understood myself, and see if I could really transcribe the feeling of it in a painting. And this is these paintings of dances are a work in progress, and I'm going to be creating more of them this year. But dancing is another form of expression, and I just wanted to see whether I could fuse my love of creating visual images with my love of dancing and see what emerged. So this was that, and I'd be fascinated to see what kind of sensations and feelings it triggers in you, kind of coming to it from an outside perspective.
You know, it's interesting. Ben has been a co-host on this platform, and I also consider him a good friend. He's a wonderful person. When I see that, I'm just going to put it up again, I actually get chills, because I've seen the videos of him actually dancing, and the way you captured it, it's so sophisticated and elegant, and the detail work in the belts and in the dress, and even in the background behind, I feel like I'm there. And I just think it's exceptional.
Really over the moon to hear that, and I will definitely be making more of these paintings and seeing what comes from it, because it's such a I think images of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Strictly Come Dancing, which is a program they do. They probably have it in the USA as well, but a program that they do for ballroom dancing, that they get celebrities to perform with professional dancers, and it's a competition. But it seems to have kind of generated a great response from the general public, and this idea of how dancing can somehow unlock certain things for us all, whether you dance or not. We all move, we all express ourselves, whether that's through gesticulation or through our facial expressions. Dancing is kind of an evolution of that step, and I think it taps into a lot of different things for different people.
We have a program here called Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
And to your point, when my dad was alive, my dad, my mom, and I would all sit and watch the show together, because I lived across the street. We make a big night of it, and then we vote on who we thought. It was just, it brought everybody together through the generations, and that's what still happens. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, ladies, I just have a quick question before we close out. I know you wanted to speak on NFTs and some other topics in this area. Do you want to move to that?
Well, yes, I was going to say, actually, Susie, it's clear that this time and space is not enough to expand. There's so much similarity. So again, when Jacalyn suggested that we meet up, I can see why now. And one of the things that we have is in World Jenny's Day, we have World Jenny's Day art collection on the blockchain through NFTs, and we pioneered it. We're one of the first pioneers last year to do that, and I would love to share more space and time with you with your digital art, and let's see if we can co-create something and have another interview once we have. In terms of the blockchain and NFT, is it something you've explored or thought about?
Sorry, the light's going crazy. Yes, I'm just going to quickly draw the curtain very quickly.
I love these programs because we have the best guests, and we could be here for hours, right? There's so much to learn.
There we go. The afternoon light pouring through. NFTs is definitely a subject to expand on, and I would love to do a collaborative project with you on that. It's something that I have begun to dabble in. I minted my first NFT last summer, and I'm intending to do more, but I've been sort of juggling a few different things, but I'm fascinated by it. And I think, especially because it's a space where it's quite new to a lot of people who aren't within the tech community. And I think it will become more and more accessible to more and more people. And it, for the artist, I think it kind of gives them a lot more, what's the word? Because of the way that royalties work within it, it really allows more fairness, more justice to the artist, if you like, in how something works. Because traditionally, although there are schemes set up, when an artist produces an artwork and it's sold, that's one transaction, and then the artwork continues to be sold perhaps down the line, but the artist doesn't necessarily get any royalties in relation to that. Whereas with blockchain, they get a 10% slice every time an artwork sells on. And the nature of NFT seems to be that there's a lot of transactions, that an NFT can move from one owner to another very quickly, depending on the demand for that particular image. And it's just an extraordinary shift of the way things are structured, and the dialogues that can be created. So yeah, absolutely, we can continue that conversation.
I can't agree more. And I think one of the things is it's all forms of art, even video. There are some prominent rap artists who have gone over onto there because they're earning money.
Yeah.
And you should see them and hear them and listen to them rap that out. It's hysterically funny watching them go, yes, we've done it. And I think that's the big thing, is that it's leveling the playing field so that everybody gets a fair share of the piece of cake on what's happening, instead of that rate in proportion. And I'm looking forward to seeing your pieces that you've minted. That would be amazing. So
I'll forward you some details on that for sure.
I'll exchange, and we'll do something.
I haven't dabbled in this area, but I'd love to learn more and find out how I can collaborate with you women on something.
Be amazing. Well, we'll sit down and let's do a brainstorming. It's why World Jenny's Day did so well last year was because we didn't come saying it has to be done this way. When people stepped forward, we went, let's explore, like you and the three of us are doing now. And it takes you to unbelievable places. So I can't wait. It'll be wonderful. We'll be the trilogy.
Sounds epic.
Yay! And Susie, we have to have you back again soon so we can follow up, and maybe if you have a file you can share with us about this painting, this portrait that you did for your dad, that would be great.
Absolutely. No, that would be an absolute pleasure. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to spotlight you and put up your banner again. And Susie, if you could let people know, who would you like to reach out to you, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So you can, several ways to get in touch with me. You can DM me on Instagram at Susie Nathanson. You can head along to the website, which you can see below, www.susannanathanson.co.uk, and you can message me through there directly. And I'm reaching out to anyone who wants to collaborate with me on their stories and see what extraordinary things we can create together. Yeah, that's essentially it. It'd be a pleasure to speak with you and hear more.
Fantastic. And Susie, if somebody is interested in a collaboration, I know we talked about this last year, but you can work with people all over the world, correct?
Exactly. Super easy to do. So wherever you are, we can create something together for sure.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute honor having you here today. I'm looking forward to this trilogy and also to having you back again.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.
Thank you. You too.
Pleasure.
Keep up the fabulous work. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, she's amazing, isn't she?
I'm just so glad. What's lovely is that we've kicked off this this whole show and this season with her. And I'm really grateful you came forward and said, what about talking to Susie first before anybody else? Was perfect.
Well, you know what's funny, and I forgot to mention this to Susie. Thank you for that. I saw the Ben Chai. Let me find this again. I saw this posted on social media, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is so exceptional. And she's so down to earth, isn't she?
Yeah,
She's
she
such
really
a
is.
real person. And I thought we need to have her on here as soon as possible. So glad she was able to make it. So how are you holding up there? I know that the generator, when does it go off?
Bit of backache.
I was gonna say, I give you a lot of credit sitting on the floor like that.
Thank goodness I'm a ballet dancer, so but I can sit cross-legged without too much. But yes, the generator will be going off as soon as I give the nod. It'll be off again.
Everybody's like, please don't hurry up.
But interestingly enough, I must share with you the house I'm in is my very special friend Moira Earnshaw. She's also an artist, and she played a huge part in the artistic side of Insight theatrical production that I mentioned earlier. And I would just be so inspired if she can join us. I need to talk to her. Have a little word in her ear and say, you've got to come, because she's quite media shy. But it would be wonderful to have Moira here as one of our guests too, because she just blows me away. And in fact, I know she and Susie would really go, wow, yes, yeah.
Well, if Moira's right in the house, you can just have her sit down right next to you.
Well, she put me the picture. I'm going to put this on social media. She came in and she fell about laughing and said, I have to take this picture. The bedside light is at an angle so that I've got proper light on my face. I'm on the floor. And I've got my professional mic looking like I'm in a studio, and the rest is like, really?
It's magic, the magic of television. Well, Jenetta, you are just such a super person that you are not letting any of these things that are happening to you keep you down, and that you're shining your light. So I want to spotlight you and also put up your banner and ask you to comment on who would you like to reach out to you, and what's the best way to contact you now that you're traveling. Are you available to speak with people?
I am. That's the wonderful thing. I've worked internationally online more than face-to-face for 14, 15 years now. So anybody can reach out to me. There's the epiphanyprocess.com. And if you want to get hold of me, it's Jenetta at the epiphanyprocess.com. But I'd love anybody who would like to know more about how to take that inner dialogue inside you that's so contradictory. You know how during the light of day you can say, oh, okay, I've got this challenge. Okay, got it. Make this plan, those actions, and you feel as though you've got it all in control. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up going, and there's disagreement inside you between your thinking process and your feeling emotions. And for those of you who'd like to know how to start new conversations where those two parts of you start understanding each other and agreeing and creating wise words from the combination of the two, reach out to me, because any other challenges, it's one of the reasons why I can sit here and do what I did today with all the challenges, is because the internal dialogue is very powerful when you know how to speak differently internally. If you'd like to know more about that, come to me. And I look forward to meeting all of you. We've got our guest next week is Mark Deeks, who is also very much a part of World Jennysday, that piano guy. He's got a really precious mental health story with a daughter that he will be sharing, and what he did with World Jennysday and his bigger picture too. So I look forward to having you all there too.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your friends hosting you, and for the generator that's continuing to work. So hopefully your luggage arrives soon, and we will see you again next week.
Okay, lots of love.
Lots of love to you. Take care. Bye-bye. Wow, do you see how blessed I am that I get to do this? This is such a gift to have people from two different parts of the world who are both so talented and focused on helping other people and sharing what it is that they do for mental health wellness. So thank you, Jenetta, and thank you, Susie, and thank you to all of you. I know everybody can't watch when we're live, but you watch on the replay and I hear from you, and it just means so much. To watch our shows, you can go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. And if you would click subscribe, it would mean so much. And all of our shows are put into playlists. So you will find this one under our playlist for the name of this show. And also, if you are interested in being a guest, you can go over to our website, which is surprise, usaglobaltv.com, and you can book your session there. I hope you will reach out to Jenetta and Susie, because they are people who lead with their heart, who are changing the world one person at a time, one painting at a time, one epiphany at a time. So please do reach out and know that you're not alone. You're never alone, and that we're here for you if you want to share your story. Thanks again, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Be safe wherever you are in the world. Our next show coming up is the United Kingdom News and Culture with my co-host Diane Floyd Boehm and our special guests Ian Pelham Turner and Helena Shard. And following that is fashion, travel, and leisure. And I'll be talking about the trampoline. Yay. Good way to get a good workout. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.